When it's early in the day, the light is even and diffuse, and you can see that you can really shoot with pretty accurate color in the backyard. What I want to do is I want to show you a couple of different ways to do this. One with an easel, one without an easel, and also how to shoot the four corners of each piece so that you have it to be able to post it to Etsy, but also shoot it at a high resolution. So I'm going to show you how to shoot if I was doing this for Etsy or for Squarespace to make shots for also social media using my cell phone camera. And then I'm going to show you how I would do it at a higher resolution for print on demand kind of stuff. So the first thing, as you look through the lens, you can see the light is really diffuse. And one of the things that is really useful is if the camera is already set to a normal resolution, I'm going to tip the camera for a second. And I'm going to hit the button. The 3.4 is what the camera is usually set for. 3.4 108 is a higher resolution, but for shooting stuff to put on the web or for Etsy, you don't need to shoot any higher than just the 3.4. In fact, it's not useful to do that. So you see that I have this, the canvas is tilted against the wall to kind of match the angle that I'm going to shoot from. And all you have to do, I like to hold it horizontally because it's a little bit easier to do. And I like to use the guidelines so you can set it so that you can see the grids on your phone in the options, and then just shoot like this. And a lot of times I'll shoot 2 or 3 because it's disposable, right? And then after I've shot that, I'll do the 4 corners of the image and then one of the center. For Etsy, it only allows you to do to put 10 images up. And one of the other things that Etsy sort of asks for or wants you to do is they want a short video of whatever you are doing. On the easel, I've got this piece of white paper underneath it. And that's going to give me a white balance and will give me a couple of blacks and dark grays. And so I'll move in and I'll try to keep it set. See how much easier it is. I don't have to bend as much and I don't have to tilt the camera and get weird about it. And what I'll try to do is make it parallel with the grid lines, the top and the bottom and the sides, and shoot like that. And of course, I'll do a couple of shots and then zoom in on the corners. So this is a bit overkill, but I wanted to give you enough information so that when I make the video, you'll be able to see everything that I want to do with you. Sometimes turning it this way is kind of useful to do another shot. I find it's just more stable if I hold it horizontally. As you're shooting, one of the things that's important to show the customer what the edges of a piece look like are, especially if it's on stretched canvas. So you want to do a couple of situational shots that show what the edges look like. Do a shot where I'm leaning against an easel so that they can see the back and how the back is structured. In keeping with the idea of showing people how big the piece is and the edges and sides of it, another shot that I like to take is I'll bring it into either my studio or my house, and I'll do a series of shots of it in what you would call in situ, which literally means in situation, so that people get a sense of the scale of the piece. So I'll put it next to something that everybody is aware of and knows and try to construct it the right way. And I'll have to actually square these images up so that the lines of like the doorway and the painting are matching. All right. Now, the piece on the ground here, this small portrait, it'll be a lot easier if I was to put it on the easel, but I want to show you again that, basically you have to be willing to squat to do it. And what's kind of nice is this white panel that's next to it will give me a white point or a white balance when I'm editing. And the same thing, I'm going to just zoom in. I'm not going to use the zoom function. I'm going to literally use the phone closer to get the texture. And I'm going to try to get it as square as possible. Digital photography is so forgiving because you can do as many shots as you want. Imagine when you had to do this stuff for portfolios and things like that, and you knew that every slide you took was a bit of a waste. So now the next thing I want to show you is I want to show you how to change the setting on your phone so that you can do it at a higher resolution so that you can use it for print on demand. Okay? So I'm going to turn my phone and I'm going to go up to the row at the top and hit the 3-4 and just pick the 3-4 with the 108. See how it says 3-4-108? And that's a higher resolution, and that will allow me to shoot a really high resolution image of this. Now, since you're wanting to shoot it as high as possible, I'm going to keep it vertical, and I'm going to zoom in as much as I can, and I'm going to try to keep it as parallel to the sides as I can to try to get it, and also try to get some of that grayscale on the bottom. So it's going to be a much higher resolution than the other one. And in fact, if you try to use this high resolution on Etsy or something like that, the problem will be that it'll tell you it's too big of a file and that they don't want it, and including Squarespace, the site I use. The white balance and the color is not going to be accurate. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is if you're doing stuff, first of all, for Etsy and Squarespace and social media, people won't expect the image to be completely perfect. And in fact, if the images are a little less high quality than the piece itself, that's actually better because what you're kind of doing is under-promising and over-delivering. And consistently what I have is people constantly say to me that the piece looks better in person than it did online. So if they're not disappointed and they are happy when they get the piece, that's better than having a really great image online and then having a poor image that you've shot, and that the poor image is something that is not quite representative, but good enough that someone wants to buy it, then they get it and it's better. You're over delivering then. They get something super great. So the next thing is when you are shooting stuff like this, it's so much easier when you are close up and when you're in this sort of even light. I shot a video yesterday and the light was not even, and it really it was hot, it was uncomfortable, and I think that the color wasn't as good. So I may use some of that footage. So this is the poster version of it, and I may even turn it sideways so that I get a little bit of a white balance from this canvas that's next to it. Now, the next idea that I want to talk about is if you're doing print on demand, when you shoot it, if it's not completely accurate, how are they going to compare it to the original piece? So what they're going to do is they're going to compare your print on demand that they get to what they saw on their screen. And it's almost impossible that it's going to be the same because everybody's computer screen and everybody's cell phone screen, they're looking at it in different lights and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to have to make sure that you say something like, this is not there's no returns on prints, and prints are always the biggest pain. People always complain most about prints. I almost have never, like maybe 2 times in 20 years, I've had someone say, oh, the photograph didn't match what I bought. Can you take it back, when it's an original piece? But with prints, I constantly get complaints. And the reason for that, according to a marketing expert that I got in touch with, is the lower the price point, the higher the expectation, believe it or not, and also the more complaints you get. So I always discourage people from doing print on demand, but I'm doing a bit of an experiment for this class to do some print on demand stuff.